Good morning, everyone. We're on Lamed Dalet Amud Beis on the bottom. Amar Rav Chanan, Amar Rav Hichli, Parshios Psulos. We were talking about the order of the Parshios, and then we said that Rabbeinu Tam argues with Rashi. And what's interesting is that this now says that the order is puzzle, if you do it out of order. And that would mean, not based on the Gemara, because the Gemara just tells you the order, and the Gemara is saying that order that I just gave you is puzzle, but it didn't give you an actual order. That's what we said. We just said Kadesh and Ve'ya on the right, and Shema Ve'yam Shema on the left. We said it's the left of the person looking at the person with the tefillin, so it would be the opposite for the wearer. But then we said Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam argue on the last order, the last two. Shema Ve'yam Shema. Rashi says it's Shema and then Ve'yam Shema on the outside. Rabbeinu Tam says Ve'yam Shema is on the inside and Shema is on the outside. But what's interesting is that the Gemara then says that the Seder is Ma'akev, and if the Seder is not right, it's Pasal, which would mean that although they were related, Rabbeinu Tam would say that Rashi's tefillin is Pasal. Rashi would say that Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin is Pasal. So it's just interesting that when you're wearing two sets, so you're by definition wearing one Pasal set.
Pasal, therefore, can't make a bracha?
It sounds like it. Again, I'm just reading what it says here. Hechli Parshios Psulos. Well, unless we hold.
They make bracha. They make bracha. They do it, they don't.
You don't make Rabbeinu. No, I don't think you make another one. No.
It still holds. If you hold by Rabbeinu Tam, you don't make a bracha on Rashi.
Right. So they wear both, but it's interesting because they don't put on Rabbeinu Tam till later. So it sounds like we actually paskin like Rashi, but again, this is also not halacha, because if you look, the Hechli Parshios Psulos is not quoted as halacha. There's no letter here, so it could be that it's not actually halacha l'maisa, because if it was, then what you're saying would be quite the problemo. Amar Bai lo amran ella gviyaso lebriyaso briyaso legviyaso. What's gviyaso? Is the inner. Briyaso is the outer. Gviyaso legviyaso briyaso lebriyaso lesan ba. Very interesting. So let's just go within Rashi for now because it's just easier. So you have Kadesh v'haya kiviyacha. Again, looking at it from my perspective. Kadesh v'haya kiviyacha, Shema v'hayim Shemoah. So the two outer parshios are Kadesh and v'hayim Shemoah. Right? Two inner parshios are v'haya kiviyacha and Shema. So the Gemara says that it's only when you mix up the outer for the inside and the inner for the outer. That means if you mix up the two inner ones, new. If you mix up the two outer ones, new. But if you mix up the outer one with an inner one, or the inner one with the outer one, then that's okay. Amalei Rava Maishnag Vyasa L'Byasa Byasa L'Gyasa Dela. Why? Dehachta Bai Lamechse Avira Lo Kachazia V'Hadlo Bai Lamechse Avira Kachazia. Because this guy on the outside is supposed to see air. He's supposed to have some air. Now he's in the middle. He's stuck in the middle. He's got no air. And now this guy's supposed to have air, and he's stuck in the middle. He has no air. Or the guy in the outside is supposed to, or the guy in the middle is not supposed to have any air. And now all of a sudden he's got air. Says the Gemara, B'yasa le'b'yasa v'gyasa le'b'yasa nami hachtabai l'mechse avira diyamin kachazi avira desmol. Desmol kachazi avira diyamin. What do you mean the guy on this side is supposed to have the right air, not the left air? It's obviously not literal. The point is that they're supposed to be in a certain spot. So if the insides are not in the right spot because now they're outside, so what's the difference if I'm on the right side, I'm supposed to be on the left side, I'm supposed to be on the right side, I'm supposed to be in the middle? Who cares? If you're not in the right spot, you're not in the right spot. Ella lo shna, you're right. Lo shna, and if it's in the wrong spot, according to this, it will be pasul. It'll be pasul, no matter what, if you do it the wrong way. Again, we don't necessarily pasul halach l'maisa, but if we did, it would say that there's no difference between the right air, the left air, and everything in between. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Chanan el Amar Rav titura de tefillin halach l'moshe misinai. Amar Baye ma'aver to tefillin halach l'moshe misinai. You guys have an article over there? You have an article. Can we see the article for 1 second? Can we just, you have the Mesifta. No, it's okay. Can we just show everybody so the show and tell basically is, you see over there, well, we'll just explain it. We have the box. The box is what we're called, how does he refer to the box over there? The actual box is the, no, he doesn't call it the bottom. What does he call it? He calls the box, somebody pointed out, you say, every time I get up, I'm outside of the camera. I realize that, but okay. The ketzitza. The ketzitza is what he's calling, well, at the bottom of the ketzitza. Anyway, there's a difference of opinion. I don't even know how we do it. There's a difference of opinion. We have the box with the shin. Let's just talk about the shell roche for a second. You have the box with the shin on it. That's a square. So I don't even know if we do it from one or from two, because there's two opinions brought down. It says, a Tosfos says you need to have two pieces of leather. You have the box, which is one piece of leather, and then you have basically the base, which we'll call the base, which is another piece, and it sort of goes in. I think ours is all one big piece of leather. But I don't know, I have to double check that. But the point is that either way, once you form it, you have the box part, and then you have the base. There's a whole discussion, does the base, it looks like according to one opinion Rashi, the base should really only be coming in the back. That means that the box should be taking up the whole front, and the base is just the place to put the strap through the back. The way that he looks at it over there is that the base, according to Rashi, is very flat. So you have the box, then you have like a very, again, if you imagine like not our tefillin, let's say this was the entire tefillin. This was the entire tefillin. So if this is the entire box, the box takes up the whole thing, right? So the box goes all the way around to the perimeter, and the only thing you have left is the back. You have a little bit in the back, which is folded over, and the ritzuos go through, right? It's flat, and the ritzuos go through, but again, the box is taking up the whole perimeter, so all you have is a little bit of leather left, not on the right, not on the left, not on the outside. There's no protrusions, as he says. It's just the back has a little bit of leather coming out. You fold it over or underneath, and then you put the ritzuos through them. That's considered to be the titura, which again is the base. Our base is a little bit more fancy than that. We don't just have the back of the leather folded over, we actually have a base that goes around the entire box itself. But according to the way that the Gemara is saying is that really the base doesn't have to be the entire thing, around the entire perimeter. You could have just had the box, and then just from the back of the box, you have a little bit of leather coming out and fold it over and put the ritzua through. So our base is much more fancy. That's what we're calling the titura, the base. So the base goes all the way around. You have another box or it's part of the same thing, but you have a box there. I believe that ours are two separate. Does anybody know? The boxes that we have, the bottom are separate from the base, right? The way that it's like this, the way that Tosfos has it, right?
It's still one piece, I think.
But it's sewn together, I believe.
Yeah, the top and bottom, because you put the part
exactly like you're showing here. Just take a look at the art scroll. Exactly like you're showing there. We put like the box into it, and then when you close it, but when you open it, you're only separating this from this. Right. But this is still together. But it looks like, again, I don't know for sure, but it looks like we do like Tosfos, where the box is a separate piece, and theoretically, if you would open up the whole thing and unstitch this, you'd be able to just pull out the box. Or push down the box.
Oh, I see.
You understand? Like this is two separate pieces here.
Right.
According to Rashi, it's one piece, and then you just fold over the extra or in the back. But either way, we're talking about the titura, which is the base. Whether it's just an extra piece of leather folded over in the back, or it's an actual entire new quote-unquote box, whatever it is, that's considered to be the titura. Right, but that's showing one big lump. It doesn't mean that afterwards they don't just cut out the box and then. Right, that's what it seems like. I'm just not sure.
Actually, my son makes the button.
Yeah, you'll ask him.
I think it's one piece, but
I thought it was one piece also. But that would be like Rashi, but it's really a combination though, because we have a fancy, which is fascinating because it means you're basically making one piece. The entire thing is one piece. So you're folding it, you're molding it, then you're putting it, and then you have to like create that whole box with the hole in the middle, because you have to be able to put the ritzuos. But either way, however you make it, we're either talking about that little part at the end. Again, if this is it, so then we would have folded over at the end a little part with the ritzuos to go through, or you'd have this whole fancy base that we have. That's the titura, the base. And then the ma'averta, the ma'averta is part of the base. The ma'averta is the part right behind, the part which again is right behind where the ritzuos actually go in. That part of the base is called the ma'averta. The rest of the base, especially with like the protrusions, is the way we do it on the right, left, and front. That's all part of the bigger thing called the titura. The ma'averta is the part just in the back that the ritzuos actually go through. Those are all halacha l'Moshe Sinai, how they're made, and what you make.
It's your site for my
yes.
We're going to learn Zechus Neshama Rivka Bas Menachem Mendel.
I was hoping you'd bring some of the cheese danishes in, but I didn't see any. Were they from Grzinski's? Where were they from?
Grzinski's.
You're from Grzinski's. You had me in mind. Great. You ate for me also. Great. You just had me in mind. Great. Thank you. Oh Hashem. Ve'amar Abaye. These are my friends. Ve'amar Abaye. Shin shel tefillin l'Moshe Mitzrayim. The shin on the rosh, that you have to have 3 on one side and 4 on the other. This is fascinating stuff because again, we wear the tefillin every day and we just sort of take everything for granted. But you have, if you look at the shins, there are 3-legged shins on one side and a 4-legged shin on the other side. And if they're mixed up or they're both, then it'll be. So that's all halacha l'Moshe Sinai. This is also, we have the charitzes, which are the grooves between every compartment on the shel rosh that has to actually reach the titura. It needs to reach where the stitching is. You might have thought that you can just sort of go part of the way. You have to actually have a stitching the entire way, all the way down to the titura, which we said is the base. He says that it doesn't have to reach, the stitching doesn't have to reach all the way to the base. As long as you can see the 4 separate compartments, it's okay. That's a machlokes. Amar Abaye, hai kilpa, the cloth, the tefillin tzarich lemivdike, the dilma is peirusa. After you get your tefillin, you should open it up and check it to make sure that there's no holes. Because if there's a hole, That means one of the letters or more of the letters will not be mukaf kviol. It won't be separated. It'll be written on the hole, even if it's a tiny hole, and it'll be a problem. Says Gemara, uvaina ksiva tama v'leken. You need to have ksiva tama. You have to have a full, nice, beautiful writing, and you don't if there's a hole. Rav Dima and Ardam are ridiculous. Lo tzarech kol masbadikle. Just buy it from a sofer who knows what he's doing, and he'll check the thing before he goes ahead and he sells it to you. Again, unfortunately, there's been stories both ways. Usually you could trust, but there have been stories where somebody opens up their tefillin after like 20 years and they have the parchments that are either missing or written on nothing. So I spoke to a sofer, or a guy who actually does. Now, it used to be that you go into a sofer. Today you go to like the middleman. It became like a little bit of a business. You have like the middleman. So I went to a guy who we trust very much in Queens, and he checked my tefillin. So there's a whole discussion twice every 7 years, once every 7 years. He says, depending on the shape of your tefillin, that means in terms of the quality and stuff, he feels that once you open it and you see that everything is kosher lechatchila, means you have to check it at least once. But once you see that it's kosher and everything is kosher v'yasher, you can assume that it's good, and you don't have to, and it has a cheskas kosher. You don't have to check it so often. I checked it because in high school, I don't know if others can relate. You know, you get your hair wet. You put in like the gel and stuff, and then you put on the tefillin sharosh every day, and then you're worried that like it's gonna, you know, everybody knows what I'm talking about. You know, from your kids, you put on the gel, or you take a shower in the morning, and you get you get it a little bit wet, and then you're afraid that the water actually seeps in and can get the parshas wet, but it doesn't usually happen. But again, once you check it and it's good, you can still check it again. But the point is that there's a cheskas kashrus. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yitzchak, Ritzuos choros kalach l'moshe misinai. The fact that you need to have black ritzuos. As we know today, we're very makbid that the new tefillin not only are black on the front, they're black on the back as well. If you read, I personally don't have that, but the new ones, if you know the new ones, you'll see most of the new ones are black on both sides. Says the Gemara, you have to use leather for the ritzuos. Bein yerokos, green. Bein shchoros, bein black. Bein levanos, bein white. Adumos lo yasim b'nei genayu davracha. You can't have red. Your straps can't be red. They could be any other color. Why can't they be red? Rashi says 2 reasons. First of all, if they see red straps, they're going to think that there's something wrong with you, that you have a lot of scabs and scrapes on your head and you're bleeding from your head all the time, and therefore your tzuras got all red. Or they're going to think that your wife is benida and you have relations with her anyway, and therefore all the blood from your wife gets all over you, and lamaisa.
No. That's what it says.
You wear your tefillin.
V'davar acher, shema yomru ishto nido baal v'nitzpeu b'dam. That he became red and he put it on. Okay, again, not everything is necessarily. This is another way of reminding you to be careful with hilchos nida. Amar Yehuda, Ma'is v'tamid Rabbi Akiva shayakosher tefillin b'lashonos shel techelas. Beautiful. He had straps of blue wool. V'lo amar lo davar. Rabbi Akiva didn't say anything. Efshar osatzadik ra'ot tamid v'lo michabo. So Rabbi Yehuda says, right, the first opinion is already the question on us, right? If we just stopped there before we had Rabbi Yehuda, we still have the question, because we just said it has to be black straps of leather, and now all of a sudden you're saying it could be black or green or white. That's our question. Furthermore, Rabbi Yehuda goes even further and says it doesn't even have to be leather. It could actually be wool, because you see that Rabbi Akiva's Talmud used straps of blue wool, and nobody said anything. Rabbi Akiva didn't say anything. Get your facts straight. No, what are you talking about? He didn't actually wear that, and had he worn that, Rabbi Akiva would have stopped him. So you don't have the facts of the story straight. Maaseh behorkanus. Horkanus b'noshe Rabbi Lezer ben Horkanus. Shaykosher tefillah b'lashona shel argaman. Even better, straps of purple wool. Is it possible that Horkanus, the son of Rabbi Lezer, wore this, and Rabbi Lezer didn't say anything to him? You had no story. Get your facts straight. However, Ketani Mia ben Yerakos bein shchoros or bein levanos, it could be other colors, and maybe not specifically those colors, anything but red, it sounds like. You just told me it has to be black straps. So Gemara lo kasha, kan bi mifnim, kan bi bachutz. You're right, and that's how we paskin seemingly. From the inside, it could be other colors. Now, obviously, we don't do that. We keep the leather, the natural color, brown. But from the inside, it could be other colors. From the outside, it needs to be black. And that's why there's a whole discussion. It's halach l'mash mitina. That's why it's important to check your ritzuos. And when they get bad, you have to make sure to replace them, because they wear out and then they become not black anymore, and that's a problem, especially if it's mi bachutz. So mi bafnim means facing the body, mi bachutz is the way that everybody sees. If it's in the inside, who cares if it's red? Nobody's going over to your tefillin and flipping it over and looking and saying, oh, do you have red tefillin? Maybe you have a problem. No, it happened times in Gemara. What happens to us? They don't always go ahead. This was before they used to tuck it into the belt, the oldest trick in the book. You tuck it into your belt, and then you put it through, and then it doesn't flip over. But before then, right, it would flip, and it would switch, and the Maisa, you'd see the back, even if you meant to see only the front. Tana, tefillin miruvos. In fact, they have to be perfectly square. As Rashi says, first of all, what that means is that, like you were saying in the picture over there, you shouldn't pull the stitching too tight. When you're stitching it together, it's still new, it's still soft. If you pull the stitching too tight, you're going to ruin the squareness. That's the first thing. The second thing is it's also on the rivua. That means don't think that the corners just have to be square. The entire thing needs to be square. So it has to be a perfect square. It can't be that just the corners are square, but the inside, the diagonal, is not perfectly square either. Says the Gemara, we have a proof. We have a proof that it has to be perfectly square, because you see that if you make it round, you don't get the mitzvah. First of all, you don't get the mitzvah. That's the first thing. But why is it dangerous? Because we're afraid if it's round and you bump into the door or the ceiling, the round tefillin is going to go straight into your skull and it's going to hurt you. Amar of Papa Masnis and David Amaguza. The Gemara says, I'm not arguing that it has to be square, and it's halakha majus Sinai, but don't bring me a proof from that case. Because the fact that it needs to be, the fact that it can't be dangerous, that's not a proof it has to be square, because you could still make the base square and just make the actual tefillin round. The only problem was that if it was like a nut, if it was like literally a nut or a round thing on your head, then if you hit your head, it would go straight into your head. But if you made it with a base, who said that the thing on the base needs to be square? It could be round, it could be whatever it was. It wouldn't go into your head because you still have the base protecting you. Says the Gemara, it doesn't matter. So you don't have a proof, but it's still halakha l'moshe misinai, that it needs to be squared all the way around. Amar Afuna, tefillin, kozmanchi yesh tavla kayemes ksheros. V'chist amar nifsku shtayim ksheros, shalosh psulos. Here's another good picture in the art school over here, on the next page. So the Rav Huna says that tefillin, as long as there's no holes on the outer part, it's kasher. Look on the bottom part of the, if you have the article, look at the bottom part there. As long as there's no holes on the outside of the tefillin, but on the inside, if there are holes, let's say the shel rosh, which is split up into different compartments, if there are holes, it's kasher. According to the second opinion, if there are holes between the compartments, it's going to be a problem. It means according to the first opinion, just don't have a hole on the outside of the shel rosh. If you happen to have the four things which are supposed to be four bottom on the inside, and there's holes in between the bottom, and therefore you can see from one thing into the other, it's not a problem. According to the second opinion, according to Rav Chisda, if there's two holes, it means there's holes on two of the four, it's going to be okay. If there's holes on three, it's not going to be okay. And this whole discussion, as you see over there with Rashi, where exactly the holes can be, if they're on the same, if they're just on two, if they're touching, if they're, etc. But that's a whole discussion. When we said that holes on three of them is a problem and two of them is okay, that's only if the two of them are on opposite sides. Right? But if the two of them are right next to each other, if the holes of two of them, so for instance, if you have V'hayam Shema in the middle, if you have V'haya Kiviyacha in the middle, and the one to the right of V'haya Kiviyacha, which is also bordering Kadesh, and the one to the left, which is also bordering Shema, if both of those have holes in them, then Lamaisa, it'll be a problem, even if it's just two holes, because both of the right and the left side of that one has holes in it. Again, if you look at the bottom, you'll see what he's talking about. He's talking about holes, so this one would be a problem. This one would be invalid because this is on, right, 2 and 3. But this whole C and D are already tosos. But A and B, so B would be okay because the holes are the left, because the torn compartments are not joining, and over here it would be
They have to face each
a problem. You have to, yeah, they have to be facing. Again, you look at it, you look at the picture when you have a chance. Says the Gemara. But either way, we said that 3 is definitely a problem. 2. Well, again, according to the talmud-bavli, nothing's a problem. It sounds like if the entire inside is all one box, like the shel yad, it'll be fine. That's what the talmud-bavli says. The Rav Chisda says no. There's certain parameters. If it's ripped in 2 spots, it's okay. If it's ripped in 3 spots, it's not okay. And then Rava adds that when he said it's okay when it's ripped in 2 spots, that's only if the 2 spots are not adjoining each other, or not adjacent to each other. But if they're adjacent to each other, then even if it's only ripped in 2 spots, according to Rav Chisda, it'll be a problem.
And just to be clear, the 4 parshios have to be separate, but they could be in one space according to the time.
No, so b'di'eved, you put in 4 different parshios, but if the walls, no, because we're also, I mean, you're right, but we're not necessarily talking about a full rip. But it sounds like you're saying even if it was a full rip. But what we're talking about is little rips between the parshios. So even if all 4 of those had rips, it's okay. What would he say if the entire thing was ripped out and there was just one big hole like the shel yad? So again, it sounds like he would hold that it would be okay, b'di'eved. But Rav Chisda would say that even if there's just 2, what?
Or he'd say no way.
Or, right, or, well, I don't know, it might be.
Compartments.
What?
That's
I don't know.
the Rosh.
Right, so I'm not sure. I'm saying he might hold not. Again, it's not clear, but he definitely says that if all 4 of them are ripped a little bit, it's fine. Then you have, within Rav Chisda, you have a discussion that even 2 might be a problem. And even when you say that 2 is a problem, 3 is definitely a problem according to Rav Chisda, but 2 being a problem is only lo amran ela bechaditasa. Aval be'atiksa less lamba. But if you have two and it's old ones, it's not a problem. Why? So the way the Rashi explains is because if you have two rips, we're going to be more machmir in a new one because that means that there's something defective about the ore itself, about the leather. We're going to be more machmir by a new one because that means that there's something wrong with the leather as opposed to if it just got worn out over time. So maybe you should get a new pair of tefillin, but we're not going to make it possible. Again, hopefully there's no holes in anybody's inside. And again, this is not something that necessarily would happen over time, even though it could. But usually it's not going to happen over time if it's a good quality leather. Today it's very hard to get the, I think we call them dakos. There's gasos, which are like a certain, that's like the better leather, thicker, and then you have the dakos, which are the cheap ones, which you were used to be able to buy. It's very hard to buy. Even the cheapest tefillin today, I think, is still gasos. And what really the difference in the prices today is not as much the batim and the ritzuos, it's more the parshios. That's the main difference.
And also, part of it is that some of them are made out of one piece and some are in two pieces.
Right.
And also, some of them have holes in them when they're making them. They filled it up afterwards. There are other ones that were never had a hole to begin with.
Right, but the average gasos that you buy are one piece, no holes, and then the difference between my tefillin and your tefillin would be the quality of the parshios inside of it. Says the Gemara. Amalei Abaye, and you gotta find somebody who you trust. Amalei Abaye, Rav Yosef.
Find it for me.
What?
Find one for me.
I have somebody that I trust very much. If you need a new pair of tefillin, let me know. Amalei Abaye, Rav Yosef. For you, I won't take a big commission. So in general, whenever we talk about new tefillin and old tefillin, how do we tell the difference between old tefillin and new tefillin? It can't just be beauty in the eye of the beholder. It can't just be that I look at it and say, oh, that one looks new and that one looks old. It says there's two ways, either from the batim or from the straps. So you have to remember, the new ones were just formed. So if you would pull on the hide, and then it goes back to its original size, that's old. Don't try this at home. If you would pull on the hide and it would stay where it is, that's new. So you want to make sure that, again, it's old only if the hide returns back to its original spot. And the other way to tell is based on the ritzuos, which is interesting because the ritzuos can be replaced and doesn't necessarily mean. But in terms of the ritzuos, how would you tell if they're new or not? So again, the bayt would be like by playing with the bayt a little bit, which again might be a little bit dangerous because if it's new, then it's not necessarily going to go back to the spot that it originally was, unless you ask somebody to reform it. But saying if it's old, it'll just go right back. But in terms of the ritzuos, what you do is, again, don't try this at home. If you want to know if your ritzuos need to be replaced or not, have your friend take one end and you take the other end and pull in opposite directions. If it snaps, that means that they're old and time to be replaced. If they're new, then they're not going to snap. So again, you can try it, and then if they break, then you know it's time for new ritzuos. Abai have a Yosef, right? Then come see me. Abai have a Yosef kamed Rav Yosef. Ifsikle ritzua detfile. So his ritzuos ripped. Armale maul miktere. Can I tie it back together? So now he's holding his. Let's just imagine his shel rosh. It's going up to here now, and the other piece fell off. Now he wants to tie the bottom part back to there. He wants to have it back again. Says the Gemara. Amalei ukshartam ksiv shetehei kshiratama. It has to be. It says it has to be kshiratama. It has to be a full binding. You have to bind it fully. And if it's ripped, Rashi gives two different opinions. If it's ripped, it just doesn't look nice, or it's just not a full kshira because you have half of a ritzua that's put back into one.
Is there a length how long this?
1 second. Amalei Ravacha, Breda Rav Yosef Ravashi, Ma'ul Mitfareva Alya Litfira Lagav. Okay, so if the problem is that it doesn't look nice, so can I go ahead and sew it back on, and I'll sew it from the inside, and it'll look perfect, and when you look at it from the outside, you won't notice anything. Says Gemara, Amar Pok Chazi Ma Ima Davar. Well, go see what people do, and you'll notice that nobody actually has it sewn together because it still doesn't look 100% nice, and therefore, Lamaisa, if your ritzuos rip, it's time to get new ritzuos. Amar Rav Papa, you'll be surprised, Mendel. Gardume ritzuos kasheros. If you have stumps of ritzuos, that's kasher. If you have literally, you have the knot there, and you have a tiny amount right here, that's kasher. A little stump. That's enough on the ritzua. And again, over here, seemingly it would be after, it doesn't say specifically the shalyad. Seems like after you pull it, as long as you can tighten it a little bit, this would not be ma'akev, it sounds like, the wrapping. Sounds like as long as you can ukshartam, as long as you can pull it, a little bit stump left. Whatever it is, yeah. So the stump would be okay, as long as you have a little bit of a stump. Says the Gemara, 1 second. That doesn't make sense. Gardume ritzuos ksheros v'lav milsi, but it's nothing. Mida amri b'nei Rabbi Chia, gardume tcheles v'gardume ezo ksheron. The Gemara says, the hasam hu detashmishe mitzvah ninu. I have to see exactly why gardume tcheles is. But if you have a tiny piece of your tcheles left, or a tiny piece of azov, which is what you dip the hyssop, when you dip it in order to sprinkle the metzora, you sprinkle other things, the paraduma. So those, if it's a tiny amount, that's kosher. What does that imply? Because those are not actual holy themselves. They're just used in the mitzvah. Tchelis is used in the mitzvah. We know that tzitzis are not on the same level as tefillin. So they're tashmishe kedusha. However, those are tashmishe mitzvah. Hacha de tashmishe kedusha ninulo. So don't prove for me, just because those are stumps, it sounds like those are kosher because they're stumps. That implies that if the tefillin is a stump, if a piece of the tefillin is a stump, that will not be good. Because on a higher level than techeles, on a higher level than the hyssop, which is just used for a mitzvah. This is the actual thing, is holy itself. Miklal de islahu shira. So that implies that there's some type of shear for the straps. And a stump will not be enough. V'kama shiureha. Sorry, yeah? So what's the shear? Again, the fact that tcheles and gardume ezov are kosher with a stump implies that only those are kosher with a stump. Because those are not as holy as tashmishe kedusha, which is the tefillin. That would imply that the tefillin is not kosher with a stump. So you need to have a certain amount of the size for the ritzua. How much is it? You'll be surprised. Amarami barchamar Reish Lakish ad etzbat srada, until your index finger. Rav Kahana machve kafuf, Rav Ashi machve pasha. Now there's probably different ways to measure this, but the way that Rashi explains is very small. Rashi says your index finger, and what do? According to the first opinion, you measure the index finger to the middle finger spread like this. That's how long it has to be. That's not too big. It means you have the kesher, and then you have to have this much of a ritzua, and you're okay. Not even. Is that 3 inches? It's about. Let's say it's a tefach. It's about 4 inches, right? It's about a tefach. According to the second opinion, it's a little bit more. It's between the index finger and your thumb. So it would be maybe even more, 6, 7 inches, right? So the point is that, but it's still very short. I mean, the next time you see the guy walking around, it's going to be like the new style. You see a guy after DAF YOMI, it's going to come with like this and like this. It's going to be like a little thing over here. It's going to look like payas, basically the size of payas. That's how long your things have to be. He's going to have his iPad, right? He's going to have his iPod things. Right, you have the earphones that'll double. You have ritzuos that'll double as an earphone, and perfect. You don't even have to pick up your phone in shul, and nobody will even know. Says the Gemara. Rabba kartelahu. So Rabba would bind his tefillin sharosh. Upashid v'shadilahu. And he would go ahead and he would straighten it behind him. So there are people without even knowing who actually paskin like Rabba. When you see the guy walking around with his tefillin, he doesn't pull the straps in front of his stomach. He leaves them behind him. He's actually not ignorant. He's paskin like Rabba. It's not that he doesn't know that they're behind him. He's paskin like Rabba. Rav Acha bar Yaakov kartelahu mat lislahu. Rav Acha bar Yaakov, I'm not exactly sure. There's no picture in the article, but it sounds like he would braid his ritzuos. It sounds interesting. Marbre de Ravna avid kididan, and Marbre de Ravna, Mar the son of Ravna, did like we do, where you go ahead and you take it. But again, it's not ma'akev. It's not going to cause you to not be kosher, but you have the ritzuos, and we do it like this. We pull it in the front. We keep the black part straight. Again, you can tuck it into your belt, and then they're straight. But according to, it's interesting, Rabbah did like some people do. Sometimes you'll see a guy, he'll forget to put the ritzuos in front of him, so you think it's so bad. It's not so bad. That's what Rabbah used to do. That's how he used to wear his tefillin. Says the Gemara.
As long as the black is showing, right?
Yeah. Amar Rav Yehuda Rav Shmuel bar Shilas Mishmei Rav. Kesher shel tefillin halacha moshina. The keshers of the tefillin, which would be what we discussed yesterday. The dalids in the back over here. I actually saw, interestingly, after we had the discussion yesterday, it's not just the double dalid, right? I always thought the double dalid, which is a square, right? Some people have the dalid, and then the yud. You have the yud here. There's a little part of the thing that's so that's the yud, and the dalid, the double dalid, I just thought is like this and like this. It's not necessarily how they do it. They take the part that's coming out, right? There are two that are coming out, and they count those as the dalid, right? It's not that you have 3 squares here and 3 squares here. Right? I thought that's what it is. I think it's actually, that's a yud. I think what they have is that they take the ritzua that's coming out, and that's the dalid. With the ritzua coming out, and 2 of the squares, you have a dalid on this side, and with the ritzua that's coming out of this side, and 2 of the squares, you have the dalid on that side. It's not, I always thought that it was the 3 squares and the 3 squares the other way. But it sounds like it's the 2 squares and the ritzua, and the 2 squares and the ritzua. Just found that to be interesting. Says the Gemara. So that kesher is halach l'moshe mitzvah, exactly how the kesher has to be done, which again is interesting because it sounds like there's a machlokes on what the halach l'moshe mitzvah was. Because if you're saying that it's a double dalet according to some and a single dalet according to others, then they're really arguing about what the halach l'moshe mitzvah was, which you don't usually hear. Amar of Nachman, you don't have an argument that the halach l'moshe mitzvah that an esrog, you don't have arguments about an esrog being an esrog as opposed to a lemon. You don't have some people shaking lemons and stuff. So it's just interesting that in this halach l'moshe mitzvah, it sounds like there was some type of machlokes. Says the Gemara, Amar of Nachman, v'navehen labar. Rashi explains that the ornaments need to be labar. Now this is two opinions. We're going to go with the second one. The first opinion is that the shin, dalet, and yud must be visible. Now the problem with that is that we know that the yud is not visible because we actually cover up the yud, right, when we put our sleeve over, because we dafka want to make it laos, for us, for the heart. But the one opinion is that the shin, dalet, and yud all need to be visible, which is on the shalrosh is definitely visible, but the yud on the shalyad is not always visible. The second opinion is that the black part of the ritzua must be visible, which is what we were saying before, and it goes with the next part of the Gemara. Vashi of Yosef Kamei Mar Zitra is hafchale ritzua de tefillin. Amarle lo savar la mar v'navein labar. Do not hold of the halacha. Do not hold of the halacha that the black has to be facing out. Amarle lava daite. I know the halacha. I just didn't realize that it was facing out. Give me a break. I'm allowed to make mistakes also. It's not that I didn't know the halacha. My tefillin have to be twisted this morning, so don't give me such a tough time. Right, we said the tefillin sheberosh is the nations of the world will see, and they'll be scared of us. When Hashem said you could see my back, you can't see my front, i.e. you can't understand my ways, he was showing him his kesher shel tefillin, the back of his tefillin. The kesher, the knot, needs to be on top, not on the bottom. So it has to be on top so that the Jewish people are on top, and it has to be in the middle so that we will be in the middle and not in the back. What's he talking about? So we know that in the back of our heads, we have the kesher here. So first of all, it means it needs to be here, in this part of the neck, in this part of the head, and not on the neck. Theoretically, you could have put the kesher over here. Would have been a little bit more, I don't mean over here, but some people you see wearing it. I don't know if you notice, and not the question. There's a lot of people in shul who wear their tefillin wrong.
All the way down?
Just in general. Not all the way down, but they wear it too low down over here. More likely, the most common problem is that people's shalrosh is not in the right spot. People wear the shalrosh too far beneath the hairline over here. That's usually the biggest problem. But they don't realize. But over here, you're supposed to put it in the nape over here, and it's supposed to be in the middle. Because theoretically, you can keep the bayis in the middle and have it over here or over here. So we're saying it needs to be dafka on the high part, not like lower down by the neck, because the Jewish people have to be higher, and it should be in the middle and not to the right or to the left, which is also a common problem. Says the Gemara. Amar Shmuel bar Bidri, Amar Rav, Amar Lam Rav Achar, Richa Amar Rav Huna, Amar Lam Rav Menashe, Amar Shmuel, Tefillah Me'em Asay Mevarech Alei, and when you make the bracha, Mishas HaNachas, and after you put them on. Says the Gemara, Ini, V'Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Kol Mitzvahs Kulam Mevarech Alei, and over Lasiyasan. I said every time we make a bracha, we do it over Lasiyasan, before we do it. So what's pshat? Says the Gemara, we want to do it as close as possible. Abayi Rav Amar Tavayu, Mishas HaNacha V'Yat Shas Kshira. Again, not everybody knows this, unfortunately, but the point is that you're supposed to do it over Lasiyasan, before you do the mitzvah. Therefore, you do it between the hanacha and the tying. That's why what you do is you put on the tefillin, and before you tighten it, when it's ready to go, you start to tighten it. But before you actually tighten it and pull it on your arm, which is the mitzvah, the kshira, that's when you make the bracha, laniach tefillin. Then you tighten it. Then you go like this.
You make the full bracha, and then you tighten it?
Of course. Yeah, you make the full bracha.
As you're doing it?
No, you make the full. You start the tightening.
Right.
Chabad, whatever. Chabad, I don't know what Chabad is. And then afterwards, and then you pull it. And then you do the wraps, and then that's why you see people putting on the head, and you don't actually push it down. You just put it on the head. Make sure to put your yarmulke back on before you make the bracha. Put it on your head, and then you make the bracha, and then you tighten it right away. That's this idea that you want to do it right before the bracha. If you would put it on first and tighten it, then you'd be yotzei the mitzvah already of the shalrosh. You'd be yotzei if you pulled it first. You'd be yotzei the mitzvah shalyad. So you put on the shalyad. You don't actually tighten it. You get it close. You can start pushing the knot towards the thing. Right? And then as soon as you make the bracha, you tighten it, do the wraps, put on the shalrosh, don't actually tighten it, keep it very loose, make the bracha, and then tighten the shalrosh, and then you finish up the tefillin shalyad. Have a wonderful Shabbos.